my son, he'll be 4 this month. He gets out of the vortex. He gets out of alignment a lot, and I go with him.
So now let's talk about what that means. Why would a child display evidence of being out of the vortex in that way?
Resistance.
But why would it be so big? Because the vortex matters so much. Because those little ones know the deliciousness of alignment and can hardly bear misalignment. You've learned to take it better. When you're out of the vortex, you don't have tantrums usually. When you're out of the vortex, you've learned to behave. You've learned to stuff your emotions. You've learned to ignore them. That's why you have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a dream. In other words, you've learned. But your children have not become adept at that. So as parents in the vortex, you want to teach your child about the vortex. But that's why we say get in there yourself, because only a parent in the vortex can teach a child how to get into the vortex. So what you want to say, the first thing that happens is when you see your 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old out of the vortex, and you say, and it causes you to come out too, that's your first order of business. You want to be able to stay in the vortex no matter where your children are. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's interesting is when your children are adorable, they're the reason you go in the vortex. And so then you depend on them for in the vortex stuff. And then when they misbehave and you come out, then you little brat, I count on you for in the vortex, not out of the vortex. And what you want to do is become vortex independent from your children. You want to be able to be in the vortex whether they are or not. Because when you're in the vortex and your child is having a tantrum, it just looks like a step 1 experience for which you feel great appreciation. When you're out there, it looks like the reason you're out there for which you feel deep resentment. Mm-hmm. So take responsibility for your own relationship with the vortex and then parent your children. In other words, our friend says, how does it relate to action? We say, get in the vortex and then do anything you're inspired to. Get in the vortex and then follow the inspiration of parenting.
So for those little jobs like getting lunch ready in the morning, getting out of the, I find that there's a lot of contrast in the morning, getting them ready for school.
Well, it's mostly because you haven't pre-paved it in a way. In other words, let's talk about this balance. And we have certainly said it enough times today that you are ready for us to not say it again, but it won't stop us, that getting in the vortex is really what it's all about. And that's that balance that we're talking about. So in the same way that if you were to spend more money than you're bringing in, you'd soon get out of balance. If you were to breathe more air out than you breathe in, you would very soon get out of balance. And if you ask more action of yourself than the time allows, you get out of balance. But you never do that when you're in the vortex. In other words, when you're consistently in the vortex, it's in the same way that we were saying that in the vortex, all cooperative components are being assembled. And it's not just the cooperative others, it's your own cooperative thoughts and your own cooperative behaviors and your own cooperative ideas. So when you get tuned in and you're consistently in the vortex, now you're taking care of things that you usually would do tomorrow right now in a seamless way. So that as you move into tomorrow, so much of it has already been taken care of because while you were at the grocery store, you thought of it. And when you were unloading the groceries, you thought of it. You were doing it in seamless ways, or someone else offered it, or it came to you in another way, or you got a whole new idea about something that you won't ever even have to do again because you're dealing with it in another way. There are all kinds of things that occur to you. But if you're trying to take care of your kids and trying to manage all of these things from outside the vortex, then it's like just one more thing compounds another, and it feels like there's never enough time. If you really want to find a way of leveraging time, get in the vortex. It will feel to you almost like time is standing still while you're thinking up things to do. It is an amazing transformation that takes place when you get up to speed with the vortex, because you finally, for the first time in your life, get up to speed with time. And when you're up to speed with time, You can get more done in a segment of time. It's like time is a perceptual thing anyway, you see. And she would have sworn that it took 5 hours to do this particular editing task. It's taken 5 hours to do that particular editing task for over 10 years. And now it takes 3 hours to do it, and she cannot for the life of her figure out why. It's the same size of file. Well, it's because she's thought of some techniques. She got a little time calculator. She's a calculator that subtracts minutes. That she didn't even realize it existed, and someone just handed it to her. Her concentration is keener. Her dexterity and her ability to use the mouse in the editing process. She has trimmed 2 hours out of a 5-hour process and can't begin to tell you how she's done it. But she's done it.
Wow.
Because she's editing from inside the vortex rather than, oh, I need to get this done. If I don't get this done, then it'll hold Phil up, and then it'll hold Tracy up, and then it'll hold Sylvia up, and then it'll hold all the clients up. In other words, from inside the vortex, she's inspired to different behavior. We're not kidding you.
So inside the vortex, you catch up with time?
Inside the vortex, as you get up to speed with who you are, you come into alignment with time, which means time slows down for you and gives you more opportunity to have more clear thoughts. Now, you could say, we said you catch up with time, or we said time slows down for you. It's whichever way floats your cork, in other words. But the way it comes out is, in other words, do you ever find yourself saying, I'm too rushed to tell that person how I feel about them? I've been meaning to sit down and write them a note to express to them how I feel about them. Well, when you're in the vortex, the opportunity will reveal itself to you, and you'll be queued up, and it'll just pour out of you. You didn't need extra time. You don't need extra time for most of the things that are important to you. You just need to be in the vortex. Try it, you'll like it. In other words, those of you who are spending time in the vortex, you know what we're talking about, don't you? And just from an exaggerated standpoint, you know the difference between being in a good mood and being in a bad mood and the way life treats you. When you're at your orneriest, isn't that always when you get the orneriest, most unwilling to help you out people? Don't you meet them everywhere? You call room service, there's one. You call valet parking, there's another one. You go to a restaurant, there's another one. They're just everywhere you go. You say, what's the world coming to? Is everyone ornery? No, everyone isn't. But you are a magnet to ornery when you're ornery. When you're in the vortex, you're a magnet to clear-minded. When you're in the vortex, you're a magnet to effective, efficient. When you're in the vortex, you're a magnet to good ideas, effective ideas.